Welcome to Cyber-Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. My name's Josh. I got Bob, Heather, and Darin here today, and we are talking about Captain Marvel, which came out in 2019. It stars Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Jude Law, Annette Bening, and various others. Oh, and Clark Gregg came back as Phil Coulson. I always like seeing him. And I was someone who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I hadn't even taken a break. But I still, Coulson's like a great character. So I enjoyed this movie. I like it more every time I watch it. It's still not like, Endgame or Infinity War, but still really enjoy this movie.
Because the physics are better?
Aside from the physics, I like the cast. I like the story. I've always liked Brie Larson, though, to be fair. I haven't seen her in that many things, but she kills it in this movie. And my introduction to her was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where she played Envy Adams. And Scott Pilgrim versus the World is like honestly one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, it's up there. No, Scott Pilgrim versus the World is an awesome movie. I don't know if it's
Yeah, it
like
is.
one of the best movies of all times, but yeah. But I think that with Captain Marvel, I think one of the things we need to kind of focus on is kind of where the MCU is at right now. Before Captain Marvel, as we talked about last week with Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's released between Infinity War and Endgame. This is the first female-led MCU movie, and I think that it's just kind of interesting to note what they brought in on the rewatch. For me, I liked it a little bit more than I did the first time. Not that I didn't like it the first time, but
Yeah.
it's interesting on these rewatches, and I think it's just the nature of the beast, for lack of a better term, of like now we've had all this expanded universe, we've had more movies, so then when you go and rewatch one of these, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that kind of is more cohesive, because when the movie came out, I think it was like, or when any of these movies comes out, it's like, wait, what? Like that didn't make sense, or that didn't connect as well as I thought it. And then now that they've had time to flesh it all out, I think that it's an interesting place to put it. I also thought it was interesting that this movie took place in the 90s. I think that was
Mhm.
interesting. I mean, they could have done it like Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it was just like a little before Infinity War happened, but they actually chose to put this like all the way back there, bring in a young Nick
I think that
Fury.
makes sense, though, because they didn't have any of the other Avengers show up, and they would have if she had come to Earth when they were already around. So I think it makes sense that this all happened before the Avengers existed.
Yeah, because I think
But
the Black Widow movie was in the 90s too, right?
no, the Black Widow movie takes place
Is it now?
after Civil War, but before
Okay,
Infinity
but
War.
it was still a little bit of a flashback. I don't know. Heather, Darin, how'd you guys think
The
about
fact that
overall
they said
Captain
it in the
Marvel?
90s, you guys are saying, "Oh, it makes sense in universe that they would do that, or that, that they put it there." But it reminded me of that comment by Deadpool in the Deadpool movie where he's like, Why do I never see more than one X-Men?" It's like you don't have the budget to pay for more, or so it's
Yeah,
like it's that kind of thing. It was like it was really noticeable to me. It would have been really noticeable to me if they had put it in present day, re
Yeah,
in universe
yeah,
present
that's
day,
why I said, yeah,
and
if she had
then
appeared, yeah.
no other Avengers showed up. They had to do some big introductions of Marvel Universe concepts, like the entirety of, the Kree, and the
The
Guardian, not the Guardian,
Skrulls.
Nova Corps, this
Well,
whole
we knew about Nova Corps because of Guardians, but
Guardians. Yeah,
yeah, but the
had no
Skrulls were
had
introduced in this
number
too.
wait, the whole Nova Corps where Sylvester Stallone was one of the
Well,
he was a
he's a
Ravager.
Ravager.
Yeah, he was a
Ravagers. Okay,
Ravager.
I got that
Yeah.
mixed
Yeah.
up. I got that mixed up because okay, but
Actually have a question for Heather, for both Darin and Heather, actually, though,
Hmm,
if you don't mind.
hmm.
Something that because and I assume Bob, like me, we're really into Marvel. So, like, watching this movie, I knew immediately that like, I knew the basics because the Kree are always bad. Like, there's never there's an occasional Kree individual who could be a good guy, But as a general rule, the Kree are always bad guys. So I wasn't sure going in, like I knew
Yeah.
immediately what was going to happen. But I'm curious if Heather and Darin, because you're not as into the Marvel movies or the Marvel universe as I am, if it was a surprise.
Yeah, so that was one of the things I was going to say. As much as I love the movie, I love, the story about it. This was one of the few Marvel movies that from the beginning I really felt kind of left out because I didn't know some of these characters. I didn't have a context for a lot of this. I didn't have a context for the war between the Kree and the Skrull. Like the only mention of Kree to me was like the couple in
Guardians.
Guardians. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because Ronan,
like
the accuser.
and especially like as the movie started, and it's like, wait a second, weren't they the bad guys in that movie a long time ago? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I had a little more catching up to do. I love the story itself. I love the setting in the '90s. It's fun and nostalgic for me in my age. But yeah, this was one that I feel like if you were a comic book fan, you got more out of it versus some of the other movies. I didn't feel like I was losing a ton from not being a comic book fan.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And-
did think about that a little bit.
right down to the post credit or mid credit scene that shows her logo or
Coming
whatever.
back.
Like
Yeah.
that meant nothing to me. It's like, okay, he's reaching out to somebody. Like
Well, yeah.
didn't mean anything to me other than like, okay, there's somebody's going to come and save the day.
Well, that's why I
But-
said during our discussion last week, I think that this movie should have come out about 2 months after Infinity War because everyone was thinking about that symbol on Nick Fury's pager and they're like, what is that? And then they see Captain Marvel. And then if Ant-Man and the Wasp had come out right before Endgame, that scene where everyone disappears would have flowed right into Endgame.
Even if there was some historical, in all the prior movies, some reference to this mysterious Captain Marvel might have been a little more intriguing for me and like anticipating this movie. But, even hearing it, it's not a name that I knew. Like, I've heard the name Iron Man, I hear the name Spider-Man, just from, years of cultural context. But Captain Marvel was not as common of a name. And so I'm like, well, who's Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
And, so I felt a little more behind the curve, especially the first time watching this movie. But it is a very fun movie.
What about you, Darin? Was that mystery like not a mystery to you or?
I knew of the Kree, but this is kind of a testament to how big the Marvel universe of the comics actually is, because there at the time there were subgenres of Marvel comic book fans. People were either they were into your street level Punishers and Daredevils and things like that, and they were following those characters, and you had characters who were really heavy into the cosmic stuff, which included the Kree and the Skrulls and the your Silver Surfers and and things like that out there. You had people who were more into the Norse, with Thor and all the book,
Yeah, which
all
kind of
those
fell
ones.
into the cosmic realm, but then there's also the
and see,
supernatural realm, which was
the only way
Sorry.
I knew at the time that I encountered this movie of the Skrulls was actually the artist John Byrne's run on Fantastic Four. He had done some encounters with the Fantastic Four and the Skrull. I had very little connection to the Kree. I knew of the name, and I knew that they were kind of the main antagonist of the Skrulls. But I really wasn't deep into who exactly in the Marvel universe was connected directly with the Kree. And so I didn't know at the time of Captain Marvel in that way. And yeah, so the movie to me was like, oh, okay, so that's how the Kree are bigger than I thought, in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So that's
and
how.
to be fair, I mean, I kind of when I was saying it, like I didn't mean to say the Kree are always bad guys. Like they are always bad guys, but to be fair, in the comics, the Skrulls are usually bad guys too. So there was a little bit of like I didn't know who the main bad guys were going to be, who the real aggressors were going to be, but I very quickly was able to figure out that they were making the Skrulls the sympathetic ones in this movie.
Yeah.
And that has precedence in the comics as well.
Yeah. Wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the Carol Danvers backstory and how it was a whole, her memory was erased, her amnesia or
Hmm.
whatever. And I mean, I thought it was kind of an interesting, she pieces it back together. I kind of feel like by the end, she gets some of the memories back, but still not like it doesn't just come flooding back. It's still like she's kind of putting things together. I felt like they put it like the audience, we kind of journey with her as she's remembering everything. And I don't know if you guys feel like how you feel about that, how she's Vers, because that was what it was on her dog tag. It was just Danvers and it was just Vers, and then
Yeah.
or Veers or whatever. And would the film have been maybe stronger if Carol's history had been there since the beginning, or does it more engaging, now that we've rewatched it again, because we've all rewatched it since then, just kind of her whole backstory and how it's put
I
together.
think it would have been very different. I can't say whether it would be better or worse, but it would have been very different if they had done the whole thing in chronological order with us learning who Carol Danvers is and then her, having all this stuff happen to her and relearning her memory. I like how they did it though. You had asked me, Bob, at one point, like, is this a movie? Is this a mystery movie or is it just an origin story. And I say it's an origin story. It has elements of a mystery movie in it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a mystery movie because we know right away. We don't know her backstory, but we know she's Captain Marvel. We know where we're headed. So I don't
See,
really feel like
I agree that it's more of a backstory movie, but I did not know Captain Marvel and where it was headed.
no, but
But I didn't see it just as like this mystery to solve. I mean, I was seeing it as, there's this hero that has to figure out who she is or something like that. So
right, yeah,
not quite the same as like a mystery,
yeah, mystery movie.
type
You
of thing.
don't know who the bad guy is, and we knew who the bad guy was. And is it just me? Jude Law, is he always like the bad guy? He always gives me bad guy vibes.
He's
He's a
not
good
he's not
actor.
always the
He's
bad
not
he's
He
not
always
was
the
Not
always
bad
the
Dr.
guy.
bad
always.
guy.
I
Watson. He
know
was
he's not
Dr.
always
Watson.
the
He was
bad
awesome
guy.
as Dr. Watson. So I
Yeah,
loved him in
Well,
that.
I
in
know that
Gattaca,
he's
he was
yeah,
great
Gattaca.
in
That was a deep
Gattaca with
cut.
but for
Ethan
some
Hawke.
Right,
reason, when
right.
I look at him, like, every time I look at him, maybe it's just this I don't know, maybe it's his
He has sharp
Britishness.
features. Maybe that makes
But
you
He
think
yeah,
has
bad guy.
he
AI
has
artificial
resting villain
intelligence
face,
from
resting villain face.
like,
2001.
Yeah,
when
resting villain face. I
even
like
when he's
that.
a good guy, yeah, he looks like like he's about to do a villain laugh.
He's got an underlying, like,
It's got this
there's like
menacing,
yeah,
"Don't
menacing thing.
you are beneath me because you are a fraction of my looks."
Yeah. One of the things that and it's making me think of it as I talked about Carol's backstory and how she, so they've got this, light speed drive, and then she absorbs all the energy from that, and that's how she becomes Captain Marvel. And then everybody's trying to, like, the Skrull want to get the light speed drive to go live somewhere else far away from the Kree so they're not hunted down. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I missed something here, and this is legitimately sort of a question. And I noticed this throughout this particular movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they already have like spaceships that can like go through like little wormhole things. Like, I don't understand
Well,
why they needed
yeah,
Well, remember it was
Earth.
the 90s.
Right,
yeah,
but
maybe.
So
they're
we're talking
still
like a
shooting
decade
across.
before.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're
they did
shooting
still
across the
already have
universe.
those, yeah.
Remember, they like open the little portal. They're like,
They
okay, we
open
need to go to.
portals.
Yeah, they open portals, and then suddenly, boom, they're in front of Earth,
You're like,
and they
it's a
They're
travel
problem that's
light
using the
already
years.
been
cosmic
solved. Why
generator.
is this a big deal?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I was like, wait, why do they need the drive built with? Yes, I know that Dr. Lawson, Annette Bening's character, was a Skrull or a Kree the whole time.
She was a Cree, yeah.
Yeah, she was a Kree, but she built this thing with Earth-ish technology, maybe a little bit from that spaceship she had in orbit. But it's like, why do they need to go there to get that one drive when they had like all this, like, no pun intended, tech that was already light years ahead of what Earth had? And they're like, well, we need to go get this one drive. So let's fold
Yeah.
space
Well,
and
I'm
go there
guessing
because what? That I don't know. That was maybe I missed something, and that's kind of why
my
I'm asking you.
assumption is that the Skrulls don't have access to making portals.
Maybe,
For
yeah,
for
that's
those of you
true.
who've been on Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, those portals are created by the cosmic generator. That's Nova technology. Somehow the Kree got it. But and that I could see because the Kree, they invade and they take whatever they want. The Skrulls may not have that technology, and maybe they just were trying to run and would go somewhere where there were no
If
portals.
Dr. Lawson was Cree,
She was a Kree.
yeah.
I thought the
wouldn't
Nova
she
Corps
know
was
the technology?
the Kree.
No, the
No,
No.
Nova Corps
Novacore.
was
No.
Novacore is
the
somebody that
They
was.
were they were invaded by the Kree.
that's Xandar. That's
Yeah,
where
remember
Guardians of the Galaxy
Ronan?
is.
Yeah, where Ronan was
Ronan was
like,
trying to destroy
See,
Xandar. You gotta rewatch these movies.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't
I
read
didn't
my
remember
comics
Ronan at
nor
all, by
watch
the
my
way.
movies as deep as it just.
I didn't remember about Ronan at all, by the way, until I was watching this movie, the rewatch of this movie, and Googling a few things. I'm like, oh, because I knew Kree as a name, but then I'm like, Kree was in Guardians, right?
and
and
I
that's
think it would
led
have
me to all
helped.
that. Yeah,
I think it would have helped when Lee Pace showed up as Ronan again in this movie. He should have had the black paint over his
and his
eyes
voice.
so that
They
he
should
would
have put his voice
so
as it
that
was
his
before.
so that he would appear the same as he did in Guardians.
And I
I'm
think
assuming
that's the interesting thing. I think it's rather interesting about this movie is, and Heather, you said it is, this is a movie where, not that you needed to be deep in the comic lore, but you definitely needed to pay attention because those connections were there. But it's like Guardians of the Galaxy was years before, or a
right.
fair, and it's like we had Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but it's like, sure, they had the Tesseract in there, which that was another thing where I was like, I don't understand why that's just like floating around over there. Like, I don't get it, but
Well,
whatever.
that's the source of this energy, right?
Yeah,
The
but
energy that she ends up absorbing,
but
all
how
from
how
that,
did she
right?
have it already?
because she was working with Shield and Shield got it.
Yeah, but this is the 90s.
Yeah, but Shield got it, and
Didn't
then
Shield
remember
didn't
Howard
have it
Stark
till
got
later,
it.
right?
No,
Oh
Shield
yeah,
got it after
Howard
Captain
Stark. Yeah,
America, or
okay.
the Red Skull grabbed it and then disappeared. It took him to Vormir. It dug through the ship and fell into the ocean. Howard Stark found it, so now it was property of Shield.
Got it.
Then
But Shield what?
Marvel
So was Shield
worked with
working with
Shield. They were
with?
See,
working
that's the
with
thing. This is
Marvel.
one of those things where there's
Okay.
like, this one is like there's a connection that must be there. I'm gonna have to look it up, but that's what I'm talking about with this movie. It's like I don't think you need to be deep in the, like I said, deep in the comic lore, but there's obviously some connections that you need to kind of. It's not even that they're subtle. It's just ones you wouldn't think about unless you were deep in the MCU, and then there'd be enough of them. Go ahead, Heather.
I think if they had squeezed in one more movie, or even if it was done in the form of a show, explaining the Kree, the Skrull, some of this backstory of the underlying war. Don't even bring in Captain Marvel. Don't bring in what we got to see in this movie, but give us some context. I think it would have been too much to cram into this movie, but if they had done some separate thing to bring you into that side of the Marvel
A
world.
5-issue
Yeah.
limited series comic book, maybe?
I mean, the
whatever
thing
it
is,
might
yeah,
take.
like
Yeah.
doing a show or a movie about the Kree-Skrull War might have been interesting, but without a superhero to focus on,
Yeah, it
I
wouldn't
don't
had
think
an
they would
anchor.
have gotten the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it needed just a little more of that, like, okay, I get these people are against these people and they have all these weird names, but, like that
Yeah.
was as
Maybe
much as
if
I
they had just
understood.
maybe if they
Yeah.
had just put in an intro in this movie that was a bit longer with exposition about it, just like what they
Yeah,
did with
like
Black Panther.
show how Marvel ended up on Earth, and okay, so here's where we are. I don't know, that would have helped me, the non-comic book
An
person.
opening scroll, Star Wars style. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm
Or
sorry,
remember
an
Black
opening
Panther
scroll?
started. Remember if you
Yeah,
watch Remember when we
I
watched
see what
Black
you did
Panther,
there. Well done.
that whole in Black Panther, that whole opening that talked about how vibranium had come and they
Well,
made this
yeah, and
whole
something like that.
yeah, that would have worked for like 5-minute intro before the movie
Yeah.
I mean,
started.
like they could have done it from the point of view of the guy's kid, the family,
Yeah, the
reconnecting.
Skrull kid
The mom telling the kid about the history of Skrull and how they are where they are right now, and then jump into the movie. Yeah, I don't know. A little bit of
Yeah.
exposition wouldn't have hurt.
Yeah.
The next area I wanted to jump into, and I just love this title, so I'm going to say it, is The Kree's Guide to Gaslighting. So I think that
Horrible.
the Kree, you've got Jan Rog, who's Jude Law, right? And he's like mentoring her and kind of training her. And he's like, don't use your powers, right? And she's
Yeah,
wearing her
control
little,
yourself.
yeah, she's wearing her Dr. Otto Octavius inhibitor chip on there. And, but,
She thinks
you
that's giving her the powers, but it's
right,
actually
but it's being
Inhibiting
controlled.
her, yeah.
But the supreme intelligence, which is basically Cree GPT, appears as, I think it's interesting. It's like, I don't know why that it had to appear as someone that the person like admires. Like, who do you see when you go see, Supreme Intelligence? And then she's like, I bet, to Jude Law, and she's like, I bet you see me. And she keeps seeing Dr.
It's in the
Lawson.
comics, it's a big blobby
That's part of the
blue guy with
gaslighting, yeah.
little squiddy hair.
Right,
And
right.
it doesn't make itself look like anything different in the comic.
Yeah.
But they had to do it
yeah.
because they didn't want to do that part in the movie.
But I think that, it's like, this isn't just like, and this is how I felt. It wasn't just like, oh, she's on a mission, but the mission isn't just like it's this mission that they thought they were doing good and it's actually something bad. It's like the entire thing is all just a bunch of BS. What the Kree are doing, and I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, the whole society is built on like a pack of lies, basically, and not just to Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers' character, but it's like in
It's
general
like the whole
entire
society has been
populace.
gaslighted by this AI.
So,
being
but yeah,
gaslighted
I don't know.
by an AI, I have no idea how that feels.
Yeah, really. I know. Like, what? But
That's
I don't
not
know how
poignant
you
at
guys,
all.
kind of wanted
Or being
to,
gaslighted by some version of dictator. No, okay.
yeah. Let's not go there. We're not going there. But,
No, we won't.
but I don't know how you guys feel about that whole the whole setup of the Kree, how what Jan Rog and we come to find out that he actually took her because he fought her in front of the Lightspeed drive. And I know I'm not saying that right, but it's the whatever that drive was.
He
And then
saw that
Yeah.
power, that core
Right.
went into her, and
right.
Yeah.
so yeah.
I don't know what
And
his end
tried to
result was.
capitalize
Like
on
to
that,
me,
yeah.
it would be like, I think of like Man of Steel, and it's like he's got the codex. Superman has the codex in him, and they're like, we need to extract the codex. Like I thought they were taking her because they were going to extract it from her somehow, but that wasn't it at all. He just like took her and gave her his blood.
I thought they wanted to use her. I
figured they wanted to
like,
use her.
turn
but
her into
but
the
they
weapon
were
that
knew she would
suppressing
be
her.
powerful,
But she
Yeah.
was suppressing her powers. So what was the point? I mean, they
To
were
make
even
it so
keeping
that
No,
her.
they were
would
controlling her
controlling
powers.
her, to make sure
A
that she was under their
little,
control.
I mean, suppressing in the sense of they didn't want her
But
to
he
turn
didn't want her
against
to
them.
go on missions too. Remember, because she's like, I'm ready, and it's like, oh, I don't know. And then, but like,
Because I don't
again,
think
he
he
didn't
thought that
trust
she
her
was
yet.
completely sold on everything. Yeah, she still
Yeah,
was emotional about
she was
things
still
and
having
still,
nightmares about her
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
on Earth.
yeah, I
So
guess.
Well,
I don't know. But
and the big breakout reveal of her learning all of this wouldn't have been as poignant if she wasn't being repressed and suppressed and gaslit and all these things. Is like her growth as a character was to reveal herself to herself, and that was
yeah. I
that
mean, it
was
was.
the
There
arc.
was definitely a shift. There was definitely a shift in how she was acting on the screen. Just as she's slowly realizing that these pieces are not fitting together the way that she thought they did.
well,
And
and
so
I felt like
I loved watching that gradual change. Like at first it was just a little bit of doubt, and then it's a little bit of suspicion, and then she's like, actively trying to figure out, what the hell happened to me, like
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I felt like it was. I felt like from the get go, she was never like fully on board. She was
well, no,
trying.
she was
and
having
don't.
nightmares because
Yeah,
she
she was having these weird
remembering.
nightmare
She was,
memory things. Yeah.
parts of her
But
memory trying to resurface.
yeah, but I think that
It's very Jason Bourne in that way, where it was
yeah.
this kind of the amnesia was put onto her purposefully instead of accidentally, kind of thing. And so,
Well, yeah, that was
she-
one of the things I had in my notes is, the little, I'm going to keep calling it an inhibitor chip. The chip they use to control her because no one else had that chip, is I wonder if that also suppressed part of her personality and maybe, that suppressed some of her memories too. They never really, show that, but I'm wondering because she finally gets it off near the end and that's when she goes full power.
Yeah.
But
Her
I'm wondering if that wasn't
personality,
in there.
her personality, again, we don't see too much of the before version of her, but I thought the personality was still bleeding through, even like from the beginning, like,
Yeah, she would
when
take
we think she's
little
fully Kree.
digs,
Yeah, she had a
even
little
at the people
attitude.
that
She
she
had a little
yeah,
sarcasm. Like, I
yeah.
think that personality was still seeping through. So I
Yeah.
don't think it necessarily took the personality.
She had the 90s snark, which,
There
you
we
know,
go, the
is in
90s
line
snark.
for the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Half of my high school, yeah.
Wanted to get into the Skrulls that we've already talked about a little bit, and kind of the twist with that. Obviously, the Skrulls at first are like, "Oh, these are the bad guys," right? I like the train fight scene. I thought that was kind of cool how the Skrull kept like with the old lady, and
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
Talos, played by Ben Mendelsohn, right? And there's a guy who's always a villain in Ready Player One, in Rogue One, The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight Rises.
Do you think they
Yeah.
cast him specifically for that vibe so that they could do that? Oh, we
I'm
know
sure
the
he
audience
does
is
that.
going to assume he's a villain, and then we're going to switcheroo it.
I thought Ben Mendelsohn in this one, I thought he did a pretty good balance of. I mean, they gave him some humor that was funny.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
he's
he
still
did a really
menacing.
good
But
job.
then, when he finally gets to the ship and he finally connects with his family, and you find out they weren't going after the light drive,
Yeah, he was just trying
then
to rescue his family.
you're sympathetic because he connects with. I'm assuming it's his wife and his child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, that's why I say he does a really great job.
and I don't want to. What was the TV show they ended up doing with the Skrulls?
That's Secret Wars.
Yeah, Secret Invasion and I didn't watch that, but I know that obviously the Skrulls were huge in that one. But I don't know how you guys felt about this whole twist with the Skrulls. Like they were the definitive, it seemed like they were the definitive bad guy here in Captain Marvel, but then suddenly it's like the whole refugee thing, and they just want to escape and start collecting, connect with all the rest of the Skrulls. I didn't know how you guys felt
Well, they
about
kind
I
of
mean,
turned it into an
I don't have the
alienation
comic book
situation there.
context.
Yeah, I like what they did because the Skrulls are so often bad guys in the comics that they were to you and me, Bob. Because we're comic book guys, we would not have been surprised to see the Skrulls as bad guys. But when we saw it was the Kree against the Skrulls, I don't know about you, but I knew like there's no way the Kree are the good guys here. So
See, I
you
didn't
know,
have that context at all. So again, I'm coming from the point, okay, I'm supposed to think the Kree are the good guys right now because that's how this movie started, and the Skrull are the bad guys. And yeah,
The shapeshifters are
that
always
switch.
the bad guys
It was almost
initially.
like the audience got gaslighted along with Carol.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I was just gaslighted the same way she was. So I don't know. There was that kind of realization when they, finally, do the reveal there
Yeah.
of the motives.
Yeah. Darin, did you want to say anything on that? On the Skrulls
Yeah,
and the twist?
I knew that the Skrulls have been presented as the bad guys in the comics, and that the Kree in general. I had a more neutral impression of prior to the movie. I had a more neutral impression of the Kree. Neutral in that they could do both good and bad. They weren't saints, so to have them have a nefarious motive in this movie was like, oh, okay, that's fine. You need it, so somebody had to do it, So it's fine that the Kree were the ones that they picked in this story to do it. So, but I wasn't like, ooh, what a twist, kind of thing. So
Okay.
since you
I
mentioned
probably
the train,
experienced it the most out of everybody, just because I didn't have any expectation whatsoever. I didn't know the Kree, I didn't know the Skrull, I didn't know the
Yeah.
who's bad and who's
Mhm.
good. So I'm completely just stuck with the context of this movie. So I probably got that twist more, that experience of that twist, the plot twist, much more than any of you guys.
Yeah. Josh, what were you going to say?
just something that I forgot to mention before. When you mentioned the train, it reminded me. I love Stanley's cameo in this
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Yeah. He's reading the Mallrats
This is
script,
one
which
of my
came out in the
favorite.
90s.
Yeah, he's playing himself because
Right.
he was in Mallrats, and that was the script for Mallrats, and he's practicing his lines. Plus, that smile she gives him, which I mean,
Yes, there was a
maybe I'm
wink.
not
Yeah.
getting it, but I'm thinking she was like saying thank you because this was his last cameo while he was alive. The cameo in Endgame was after he had died, and of course the logo at the beginning, which I admit I got choked up seeing it.
Yeah, I forgot the timing of everything, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually think they should have continued using that logo for a couple more movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Endgame especially.
Well, yeah, especially for Endgame. So wanted to talk a little bit about Carol and Maria Rambeau, who's her best friend. They reconnect at the farmhouse. Obviously, they've got a shared history together. This is kind of, I guess, in this particular movie, you'd kind of reference this, even if it's a roundabout way, as kind of the emotional heart of the movie, because you've got Monica Rambeau, the daughter who ends up coming back in the WandaVision show, and then she's in the Marvels movie. But
because she gets powers eventually.
yeah, she gets powers. But one of the questions is, kind of what I wanted to talk about was, is Maria kind of the anchor to Carol's identity? Do you think they gave their relationship enough screen time? Because, Maria, to me, gets emotional a couple of different times. Carol gets a little bit emotional too, but I felt like, I felt like it was a little muted. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It just could have been that's their personality types. But it's like, we haven't seen you for 6 years. There's, and they kind of go right back into it. But do you think that it spent enough time on that relationship to give it that, like I said, for lack of a better term, emotional heart of the movie?
I don't know if I would call Maria an anchor per se,
Well,
because
anchor her
Carol
for
didn't.
her back, her,
Yeah,
Carol can't
I don't
remember
know if I would
anything,
go that
so
far, but as far as did they get enough screen time? Yes and no, because on the one hand, they did what they needed to, and I felt like I got enough. And at the same time, I really enjoyed the banter between the two, and I could have stood to watch more of it as Carol became her own person and was reconnecting with her old friend. I would have liked to see more of that, even though it wouldn't have been necessary for the story. So, in that regard, maybe they did enough.
I felt like the reunion itself was a little underwhelming. Like,
right.
somebody that you thought was dead for 6 years and is just saying hi. Like, like I expected a little more like shock going on. As far as picking up the friendship, I think that is a sign of how close they were. So that didn't bother me. And the rest of, like getting to see, some more of that backstory and through some of that memory was enough of an explanation about, who they were before. I think that I was expecting a little more of the stun and the shock at her reappearing.
Right. Yeah, Darin.
Yeah, I didn't see this movie in the theaters, so I found myself kind of reaching for the fast forward, waiting for her to energy punch somebody again. I was like, okay, let's go, come on, let's get
Hey,
to
you know
the
what?
action.
There's nothing.
So
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
that's that
All of
that.
us have done it.
We'll agree to disagree
I
on
did,
that one,
yeah,
but
okay, I
yes,
guess
okay.
disagree. I was like, I just want, I just
You want
want
the action,
some
okay.
action punchy stuff.
Yeah, and
I'm here for the
I would
I'm
have
here
liked
for
to
the
see more
cosmic
of them
stuff
talking.
at this point.
Yeah.
Darin's like, okay,
Yeah.
talking.
Talking,
Oh,
talking.
punching.
Punching, good, punching, stop. Okay.
I agree with Heather, which is, I think it was a little bit muted. Not bad, but not
Yeah.
what
Right.
I think it's
I
more
wouldn't have
like
minded, yeah, like having a big,
it's
oh my
managing
gosh moment.
expectations. We would expect like a, oh my gosh, and then
Yes,
but it was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, wow, you're still alive. I haven't seen you for 6 years, and I'm just, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's like, and then they just kind of keep rolling with the story.
Yeah,
So
I think the better expression of that was they were having the conversation and it was like, this isn't what was hard. What was hard was losing my best friend. And then she talks about the things that she struggled with, in that loss, losing my best friend in a way that I couldn't even talk about. Nobody even wanted to acknowledge
right,
that it
right.
happened.
Yeah.
And to me, that was much more emotional at that point. And it
Yeah.
was that level of emotion, at least, that I expected just with her showing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did
One of
like
the
their banter. So
oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was like very comfortable, casual, natural,
yeah.
Yeah.
connection there.
One of the things I wanted to talk about too was Nick Fury, and I mean, in a way, this is kind of a Nick Fury origin side story, side quest, like we've talked about. They're
Yeah.
not really a side quest,
Hmm.
but a side story. I felt like it was a little bit more of a playful Nick Fury, not the hardcore, like what we've
Yeah.
seen him up
Younger.
until now. Yeah, younger, early days of Shield, like you said, we got Coulson in there, and
Well, not exactly the early day of Shield. Shield had been around for years by the time the 90s rolled
well,
around.
yeah,
Right.
but
It was
maybe
Stark and
right, but
But at the
it
beginning
seems
of
like
the Avengers initiative.
yeah.
right, but I think that I guess the early days of Shield in the sense that I mean he's got like a badge and he'd flash it. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that super secret organization. Now it was like just like the FBI or the CIA esque type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
everybody knew with the Shield and everything else. He encounters an alien for the first time and he handles it pretty well. But
Yeah.
and then we see why he gets the eye patch, which that's a whole nother question that I'm going to ask, which is like, I don't know, talk
I
about this
love
whole
it.
Nick Fury. Well, yeah, it's like it reminds me of when Star Wars Episode 3, before it came out, they announced how Anakin was going to become Darth Vader, and all they said was, "Yeah, he falls into a volcano," and I was like, "What? That sounds so weird." And in this one, it's he gets scratched in the eye by a Flerken, a cat, and it's like,
Alien
and
cat.
that's why, yeah. And then it's like, I don't even know, like, I thought that was, I don't even know how to feel about that. It's more like, well, shoot, we
I
got to
mean, I've
explain the
heard some
eye.
people, yeah, some people were angry because they thought he should have lost his eye in some much more dramatic way. And at the same time, it was very comedic and that's funny. And I'm of both minds. I could see it both ways. Like I didn't
Yeah,
feel
I
underwhelmed
I,
by
I
it.
like the comedy. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
of
the
it.
fact that they kept
Yeah, somebody
teasing
losing an eye
us.
is always funny.
Well,
No,
It's
no,
all
but I
fun
mean
and games. It's all fun and games.
It's all
that
fun
is
and
the
games. Yeah.
story, like
yeah,
I think for
I
me,
liked how
Fury
they
was such a
teased it.
mysterious person for all these other, all the other movies, and I did watch Shield and things like that, and Fury is a little more nebulous of a character, a little more mysterious, and so yeah, that it's a comical story. Compared to, some grand heroic gesture as how he lost his eye, to me, I'm like that's perfect. That's
Well,
great.
it's interesting that
And
the way they had it in the movie where he got his scratched by the Flerken means that in universe he can't ever explain the real reason why he lost his eye. So kind of like the
yeah,
Joker,
Yeah.
he had to like
well,
make up
they
a
even
What was that?
reason why he
I
had
can
the
neither
scars
confirm or
every
deny
time.
the story.
yeah.
You know,
That's what I was about
it's
to
like,
talk
oh, it was a
about.
bus
So
full of nuns
Coulson
or
is like,
whatever. I was
yeah,
saving
the,
Yeah.
kids
where
or whatever.
Coulson was
It's like he
saying,
can make
like,
up
is it
anything he
true
wants.
that you? That's
Yeah.
why
Is
it worked so well when Coulson asks him, "Is it
Yep.
true that you lost your eye doing this, whatever it was?" And he's like, "I can neither
Yeah.
confirm nor
Yeah,
deny."
exactly. It's like,
preventing them from taking the
but
Tesseract.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
also
You want
Yeah,
to know
and
how I lost
probably
this eye? You want to know how I
yeah.
lost this eye?
yeah.
A Flerken.
But I
A
think, but
Flerken,
I do think it works because it's funny, and I liked how they teased it through the whole movie. Like he kept
Yes.
getting these near misses to his eye, and we're like, "Oh, is this how he lost
Is
his
this
eye?"
how it
Nope,
happens? Is
it's
this it?
right above his eye, but he didn't lose his eye. And then, of course, the cat, the Flerken,
Oh,
gets it.
I didn't
But
even get the near misses thing. That's
yeah, he had
cool too. Yeah.
several where they it
Yeah, it just
and you
didn't
would think,
register
"Oh,
at the
did he
time.
lose
Yeah,
his
yeah.
eye that way?" No, he didn't. And then of course at the end. But at the same time, and I've said this about other characters in other movies, there is a little bit of disappointment in me because I like when he's shrouded in mystery. And by removing that, the character loses a little bit of something because he's not as mysterious anymore.
They
It's
shouldn't
not
Well, yeah, but
explain
this
ruining the
is
everything.
character.
Yeah.
right. But
It's
this
not
is,
ruining the character, but it's,
I don't
something
think
that
it's ruined. I think it shows the transition of like how he was this,
yeah.
agent and everything else. And then through just this experience in Captain Marvel alone, along with everything else he went through,
Went
led
the
him to
mysterious
be the
route.
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah, no,
to me,
I'm
it's a
not saying there's
standard
anything wrong.
evolution of a character.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just I always liked that whole mysterious vibe about him, and this removes some of
No,
that
I like to know how
mysterious.
things work, where it came from.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah. I don't like to look behind the curtain if I don't have to. But again, it's not a complaint.
tear the curtains down.
I liked it, and any chance to watch Samuel L. Jackson because that guy is gold. And I've mentioned this already. I loved seeing Bill Coulson again, a young Coulson who still had his hair and already was very very loyal to Fury. And yeah, it was good watching that considering we know where he goes from there.
Right.
Once Iron Man comes out.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to be covering it on this show, but Agents of Shield, I love that show, and it's all about Coulson after the Avengers, after his supposed death when he goes to
Right.
Tahiti.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's a
another thing I
magical
want to
place.
talk about is the whole time, the setting of the movie, the whole 90s time capsule that we get here. I mean, she falls into a Blockbuster video,
Tell us again how
and
you
I
worked at a
Is it
Blockbuster, managed
just
a
me?
Blockbuster. Tell us again one more time.
so I don't need to because Darin just said it, but I mean, I thought they did a pretty good
Is it?
job of showing what a Blockbuster. There was a couple of signs that we never had when I was at Blockbuster, but whatever. But the shelves look good, and
Is
I
it
thought
just
that
me
was
though, or is every time I see the logo for Blockbuster, I still hear the logo, the song, the jingle,
the
Blockbuster
jingle.
Video.
I didn't even know we had a jingle.
Yeah, I remember.
I did not
I
remember it till
managed a
you just
Blockbuster,
sang
didn't
it.
even know I
So
had a jingle. What the hell?
Yeah, I didn't even
I
know
remember the
I
commercials,
mean,
and
You
I
weren't
still
singing
hear
it
it.
all day
But
long?
then again, I saw it and I was like,
no,
Blockbuster
I
Video.
I
that is
also
not a
thought
jingle
What a
that stuck with
difference.
me.
I thought it was, I like that it wasn't like overtly 90s stuff like in your face where they're going out of their way to make you feel or try and
Right?
make you
Yeah,
feel
yeah. Like
like she
the
goes to
Well,
an
Strangers thing with the '80s when they overdid it with the '80s with Stranger Things,
yeah,
like
she does
that.
the,
It
it's just
it
she
was
goes to a
it
payphone because
wasn't
that's where
mocking.
yeah.
Yeah,
right,
I mean, the
right.
it was.
music though, the music, they kind of hit you over
The
the head with
music really.
90s
The
music. It's
music
good
is what
music,
grounded it for me.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
the
So
music was
I
good
like a
though.
lot of the songs there, but still, that was kind of like, don't forget, we're in the 90s. We're gonna play some No Doubt.
Yeah, I
no,
thought and it
no,
was interesting.
I thought that helped it. Yeah, I thought it helped putting the music in there, just because it's like, oh, what are you saying, Blockbuster?
I'm not
Like how
complaining
long
about the
ago was
music
this?
because
And then the music comes in, and that gave it a little more of the setting for me. So it wasn't. I thought the music contributed to it
it definitely did.
without mocking the '90s
Right.
themselves.
But yeah,
Like
I'm not saying it mocked
so.
it. I just think that they were
But just having a
using the music
Blockbuster
to,
wouldn't have told me the '90s. Just having
well,
you know what I mean?
Radio
Like,
Shack.
so yeah, well, I think the music is what locked it into, okay, this is the exact time frame we're talking.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah,
not
I thought that
complaining about the music. I'm not a huge, like, 90s is not my favorite genre of music, but they picked some of the best 90s songs there was. They had Nirvana, they had No Doubt, they had, I'm blocking the names.
well, I
What was
thought
that
the
other
uh, the
song?
the dial-up internet was interesting, and I thought it was really funny that she was on Alta Vista doing a
Yeah.
search, and I was like, "Wow!" Like, who remembers that? Like, nobody's, it's not like she opened Netscape Navigator or something. You know what I mean? It's like she's on Alta Vista googling it and that type of thing, and you hear the thing. I don't remember that many internet cafes like that. I felt like that was kind of a. I thought at first it was like the library, but I don't remember that many of those back in the '90s. But I thought it was, I thought it was interesting, that they put it in that time frame. I don't think, other than
It
having to
wasn't
set it somewhere in
necessary
the
for them to
past.
put it in that time frame.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if it's if it was a necessary thing, other than they needed to put it in the past to do the lead up, you know. But but it was an interesting choice, and I thought that the way they did it and the subtle, and he makes the comment when she gets the clothes, like that scene where she gets the motorcycle and she changes clothes, and I was just like, I don't know, that gave me Terminator 2 vibes when Schwarzenegger gets the motorcycle, you know what I mean, type of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's like the '90s stuff was subtle, but it
I was
definitely,
thinking of
gave you the
Hole.
vibe of what?
I was thinking of Hole. Hole.
The
That was the,
music
The
the
band
music.
music.
band.
There was a song by
Okay.
Hole. There was a song by Garbage. There was several songs by REM.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought
My
that,
favorite was Nirvana.
yeah, I thought it was a nice little, '90s setting. I think if anything was overt, it was the Blockbuster video at the beginning. But I
Yeah,
think
and the Radio Shack.
I needed to do something. I think they needed to do something like that to make sure that you at least knew audience wise that you were in an
This is in the
earlier
past.
Yeah,
time
yeah.
frame, a little further back than. I mean, she could have fallen into a Mervin's. That would have worked too,
I have no idea what that
Sears.
is. See, so
You don't
Yeah,
know
Blockbuster
what
is much more.
Mervin's is?
they don't
No,
have it in New Jersey.
So, but dude, Mervin's was huge though. Still,
They were.
I knew nothing about.
Mervin's was.
Blockbuster is more iconic, I think.
Blockbuster was all over
It
the
is.
United States.
Yeah.
They're still
Yeah.
So
around.
I
Well,
think
there's
that
one.
that
There's
There's one in
There's
Oregon.
there's one Blackbuster.
We have a
Blockbuster.
Radio Shack here too in Arizona, so they're not all the way gone. But anyway, and then obviously we come to the power up moment where she removes the inhibitor chip. She makes that comment of "I've been fighting with one hand tied behind my back" because she knows kind of her full power.
Because we had
And
already seen
well,
the
because she
clip.
remembers where that power came from now, instead of believing
right,
it came from this thing
Yeah,
stuck to her.
because
Yeah.
they had already teased us with the memories of her, screwing up or getting, failing. The crashing the go-kart
Right.
missing
And
the
she stood back up.
baseball, and yeah, and then this time we get to see those same things, but where she picks herself back up and
Right.
and
Right.
keeps on going,
Oh
which
yeah,
was great.
Bruce, why do we
I love
fall?
that montage.
Learn to pick ourselves back up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that whole montage. I love when it goes into the fight scene, with the, I'm just a girl in the background. Like, I thought that was awesome. So.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, and I had made this notice. I feel like, we don't get a full on, like, it's not your typical boss fight at the end. Okay, now I'm powered up and I'm gonna go fight. I mean, she just kind of comes into her power and then just starts kind of, I don't want to say fixing everything, but
Takes
it's
on
like she starts
everything.
dealing. She deals with all this different stuff. And I also found it interesting that, she didn't feel like she had to prove herself. He was trying to continue his, like, prove yourself to me and don't use your powers. And then she's like, I have nothing to prove to you. I mean, it's like complete self-awareness. But, and I don't know, should she have fought him without her powers and, like, given us a more dramatic thing?
She
No,
didn't need
Or
to.
yeah.
No,
absolutely
it was
not.
No.
Okay.
much more
It
satisfying to
was
watch
like
him
a
blast it
Here's the
against the
question.
down
rock.
with the gaslighting, done with this,
Yeah.
and coming to her own. I mean, I
Yeah, he was
I
trying to
definitely,
goad her into a
yeah,
fight, and she was beyond that. So she's just like,
yep.
nah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
blast
anybody
him
who
into a rock and
who
then
says drop the
drives him
knife
down.
and fight me like fight me mano a mano is the person who doesn't have a knife. So it's like, why would I drop mine? Come
Well,
on. What do you do?
it's the Indiana Jones swordsman scene where the guy's like, yeah,
Yeah.
and then he just pulls out the gun, and everybody
Shoots
knows,
it down.
or most, well, if you don't know the
That's not to say
backstory.
that that's not to say that might makes right no matter what, no matter what, because I don't believe that it does. But in this case, he's
In
been
this
keeping her
case, she was
down.
standing up to it.
He's
Yeah.
been keeping her down this whole time, and now he's trying to keep her down again. And we
One
know
more
that,
time,
and she
yeah.
knows that, so she's not going to do it anymore.
Right. So that brings me to a question, which is, and we talked about this with Vision when we talked about how they had to basically, for lack of a better term, nerf Vision with the, in Infinity War, because it was like he was too powerful. Do you feel like, is Carol too powerful? I guess that was kind of doing a little bit of
For
research.
the
That was kind of a
Marvel
criticism.
movies, yeah, and that's
Yeah,
probably
they
why
had to
Vision
have
was
her
taken out
fighting on
after
other
only a couple of
planets
movies.
for
Yeah,
years,
because they can't, like, it's very difficult for them to make a movie about Carol Danvers because she's so overpowered. How do you make That's probably the reason why they've had difficulty for so many years making movies about Superman. I think that the newest one was excellent, but it's very difficult when you have a character this powerful. You can't put him up against a human for the most part unless you do something different.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have to be against some kind of very, very overpowerful bad guy.
Well, that's why they
And Carol
invented
Danvers has
kryptonite in the first place.
Yeah.
In the
Carol
comics
Danvers has
was,
very few equals
you
in the
know.
Marvel comics. Scarlet Witch is also extremely powerful in the comics.
Well, yeah, and I think we talked about it before. Is like in the comics, Captain Marvel beats Thanos in a particular one. Scarlet
Yeah.
Witch beats Thanos, and from that perspective, and we never really touched on it before,
That's
but
why we're seeing them all taken out
yeah,
after only a couple of movies.
but yeah, it's it's like you said, it's kind of comparing it to Superman. I was also thinking Homelander from The Boys,
Yeah.
because he was always really super powerful
Yeah, and
for everything. But
you can't it's difficult to make a story that's engaging when it's just watching someone beat the bad guys over and over again without any difficulty.
yeah,
There has to be conflict, and for there to be conflict, there has to be difficulty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It reminds me of
I
I'm sorry, I was gonna
No, go ahead.
no, go
dovetail
ahead.
that in. I was gonna say that nerfing effect reminds me of when the car always has to break down, the phone line always has to be interrupted in some way. There always has to be a reason why the solution to the problem isn't already apparent and immediate. There was a whole thing. Somebody made a video where they said, here's all the movies that could have been solved if somebody just had a working cell phone, like, immediately. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. It's a
Well,
trope.
yeah.
I mean, and if you've ever watched How It Should Have Ended, the very first one they did was
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
Star Wars should have ended. And it was classic because it's got the Death Star approaching Yavin with the Rebel Moon on the far side of Yavin. And in the movie, they go around Yavin to get to the moon. But in the How It Should Have Ended, is like, I say the rebel base is in range now. Fire. And so they blow up Yavin, and now the rebel moon is directly in front of them. And they got
That's
Dodonna going,
great.
No,
Dodonna going,
just
well,
yeah,
that could have been better.
yeah.
You have
There's
a planet
well, yeah, and
destroying
it's
weapon. Why are you waiting? That's a good
yeah,
point.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Destroy the planet and then destroy the moon behind it. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Same can be
It's
said with
very
Captain
funny.
Marvel and every prior Marvel movie. It's like, why don't we just call her if
Yeah,
she looks like
exactly.
Yeah,
anything
that's
in
why.
like an instant?
And
Like,
she
That's why it's
so we
specifically
wouldn't
had
have
to
had
say, "I
anything.
can't be
Yeah.
there. I can't be there. I got other shit to
This
do."
is why this had to be in the 90s so that the Avengers don't know about her, because otherwise, as soon as Thanos landed, they'd be like, "Why aren't we calling
Yeah,
Captain
we're
Marvel?"
calling her.
Right?
You're right.
Right, yeah. The
What's her
first
name?
major conflict, yeah.
The Dora Milaje. What's her name? Okoye. Saying,
Mm.
why was she up there all this
Yeah,
time?
why was she up there the whole
yeah,
time?
yeah. You know, is kind of you know what worked and what didn't. We kind of talked about some of this stuff and just kind of Captain Marvel's place in the MCU. You know, is how do you feel this movie? Do you feel like it connects to Endgame because that's the next one after this one?
Y-
Other than the pager, you know, how do you you know does Carol feel integrated into the MCU at this point? You know, pretty well.
Well, she
No.
doesn't feel like she's part of the Avengers at the end of this movie.
Right,
'Cause
yeah.
she
I
isn't.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
integrated. I think it's good that we
She's
know
been
who she is now.
introduced. That's about
She's
it.
been
Yeah.
introduced.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't
And
Secret
so when she
Wars,
shows
by the
up
way. That's the
later,
next movie. It was Secret Invasion, Josh.
Secret
Yeah,
Invasion.
Secret Invasion. We should.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, too
I'll have
many
to.
secrets.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to go back and fix that. But you know, but we get the Marvels. We got WandaVision because all these characters now start, you know, coming in. We've got like in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, you've got Maria as Captain Marvel, you know, in the kind of a what if scenario, just like you had Captain Carter and that type of thing. But, you know, as kind of how do you know, again with this movie and these characters, you know, how do you feel like you know, they all fit into the MCU?
well, I thought
Well,
again with Ant-Man and Wasp, as far as the lead up to Endgame, these two movies, they introduced very specific concepts and very specific in the case of Ant-Man and the Wasp, it was, you know, quantumness and the aspect of that time worked differently there. That was supremely important, needed to be understood by the audience going into Endgame. So that movie did that one. This movie introduced the character of Captain Marvel so that when she came flying in Endgame, it wasn't a
yeah, people would
complete
know who they are.
Deus Ex Machina and everybody going, where did that come from? You know, it's like, I mean, I'm sure people
Right.
who hadn't really given
Yeah.
much credence to Captain Marvel, the movie, saw Endgame and still went, what the hell is this? You know, where'd this come from? So
Yeah.
I don't think they would have been able to
I mean, I think that
escape that. So
goes right back to what I said during Infinity War when I was there at the theater and everyone was dead quiet at the end of the movie because we just lost, you know, a whole bunch of our heroes. And other than the one guy, we're just silently sitting in the theater. And then at the end of the credits, we see Nick Fury and Maria Hill, and she disappears. And he's running to the pager, and he gets it, and then he disappears. And we're just like, oh my god, even Nick Fury is gone. But then we see the pager, and that comes up, and everyone who's a Marvel fan, including me, is just like, yeah, that's so cool. And everyone else is like,
what?
Well, I remember
Who?
people saying they
Who is
thought it was
this?
like. I remember people saying when they saw the symbol on the pager, they were actually they thought it was like Wonder Woman, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
DC?
Yeah.
You know, you know, Marvel,
Crossover
DC,
time.
like yeah, like what?" But you know, I guess one of the questions is too is
Well, they're not
should
far
Captain
off.
Marvel should Captain Marvel as a character appeared earlier in this
I think it would have
I
been
think
good if she had,
references to
but
her, I think should have appeared.
Yeah.
Get you
maybe, but
curious about
again,
who this mysterious person is.
as long as they did it without the Avengers knowing, because again, if the Avengers knew who she was, they would have wanted her to be there during Infinity War, and they couldn't have her in Infinity War because
Well, if
it
she had
would have been a
appeared
very short
earlier,
movie.
yeah, if
Even
Carol
if
had
they
arrived
teased you
on.
with like the pager
She should have been
in
there for
Fury's pocket, like,
Shatari in
what's
New
that
York.
for?
Yeah, that's what I was going
Don't
to say.
worry
If she
about it.
appeared at the
Yeah.
Battle of New York, how quickly would the first Avengers
That
movie have
whole
ended?
the movie would have been
Yeah.
over in 10 minutes.
Although
So,
her
you know,
fighting
No,
Loki
but
would have been interesting, but
yeah, even if they had teased with like Fury and his pager, and somebody saw his pager, like, why do you have that? Like, don't worry about it. Like at least that would have created that little bit of curiosity there to have some
Yeah.
sort of
Like I
I
said,
don't know, some
I
sort of thing.
think that the movie was fine where it was, except I think this movie should have been right after Infinity War because people were still thinking about that logo and they weren't thinking about, how are they going to, I mean, everyone wanted to know how Endgame was going to play out and how we were going to get our superheroes back, but they had no clue. And rather than giving them the tease from Ant-Man and the Wasp, they should have started with Captain Marvel so they saw who this symbol was
At the
from the
same time,
pager.
following a movie with a character this big, with Endgame makes sense rather than, okay, you have Infinity War, you have this introducing this big new character who's going to save the day somehow, and then Ant-Man and Wasp. Like, I feel
Yeah,
like
which
that would
takes
have
place.
fallen flat too.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe,
just
but I feel like
as far as, anticipating
I
Endgame.
just think that in terms of like what people were looking for, because right after Infinity War, people wanted to know what that symbol was, So now they would have had the answer after a month, and they could sit for a year dwelling on that. How is Captain Marvel going to save them? Because she's so powerful, but she's not there. When is she going to arrive? What are they going to do? And then
Just curious,
a
how
month
how
before,
soon did trailers start coming out? Like, if they had
For
trailers out for Captain Marvel, even though Ant-Man and Wasp was the next movie, if they had the trailers already out there, that might have been enough. But I
mm,
I
yeah,
I
but
don't
I mean, they
remember.
didn't. I don't think they
Yeah.
did yet, though, because I think for a lot of people, this was the first time they even knew that Captain Marvel was being made.
Mm.
I don't
I
remember
that
if
that
they.
that might have been a cool way to do it though. Like, have the trailers for the Captain Marvel movie, even though Ant-Man and the Wasp is the next one.
Yeah, I do remember they had announced it, but anyone who didn't follow the announcements at the time, I was always
Follow announcement
watching at the time I was always watching them because I couldn't wait. But I'm a
at
big
the
Marvel
time.
guy. That's
just
what
out
I
of
I
do.
still watch all the
just out of
announcements.
curiosity,
Yeah, but
did
I mean, the point
Captain
is, I don't have a life other than
Yeah.
watching the announcements.
did Captain Marvel? I know
I
that
have a
in the
podcast, not a
comics
life.
there was a male Captain Marvel. I mean, they had the name
Well,
Marvel.
Marvel was male in the
Yeah,
comics.
and then they had a version of him in the movies. But so they had a Captain Marvel who was male in the comics, and they had a female Miss
Not a
Marvel
Captain
who
Marvel.
was Carol Danvers in the
No,
comics.
well, Captain Marvel was not male. Wait, no, you're thinking of a different Captain
Shazam.
Marvel. DC, you're thinking of Shazam.
Am I?
Shazam's name
Okay.
in the DC universe is actually Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Well, that's
Captain Marvel in Marvel was always a
no.
woman.
I
It
know
was
that's a
always
whole can of worms. No, no,
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
Ay.
My question revolves around in the comics. Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel. Okay, black outfit, big, a yellow lightning bolt. With
yeah.
anyway.
Well, they
So
have Miss Marvel now too.
no, yeah, I know that's a different character. But did they change Miss Marvel to Captain Marvel and put her in her blue and gold and red
No,
kind of
Carol
military
Danvers
looking
was
suit in the comics after this movie or before this movie?
no. Carol Danvers was always Captain Marvel.
Yeah. She was always Captain Marvel, and her
She was the
costume.
she was the first incarnation of Ms. Marvel, but then she was changed to Captain Marvel in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't it during
You sure?
isn't it during Secret Wars
Interesting.
that Rogue absorbs all her power, and that's how Rogue becomes
Yeah. Mhm.
powerful?
Yeah.
Secret
Yeah.
Wars, Secret Invasion,
Secret Wars is
Wars.
Yeah.
the movie, the big giant
Oh, okay.
Endgame style movie that's coming out in a couple years, where like everybody in the Marvel universe. So in the comic book, it was like
Oh, I'm
every
sorry, I
Marvel
was wrong. It
character.
wasn't in the 70s. It wasn't in the 70s. 2012 is when
Yeah, I was
she
gonna
took
say
on the mantle of
70s. Wait a
Captain
second.
Marvel.
She was Miss Marvel in the black bathing suit, definitely in the 70s. I
Yeah.
was like, what?
Yeah.
No, I was just
So
wondering if did she become Captain Marvel in the style that she's in now in the comics? Did she have that style before the movie came out or after the movie came out? Like, did they make that visual switch for her? Did the comics style themselves after the movie, or was it the other way around? That's all I'm asking. I didn't know the answer to that.
Well, I
I
knew
guess we
she
all
wore
don't.
that costume. Yeah.
So
I
you
know she wore that costume before the movie, but
Okay, then that's my
anyway,
answer.
back to the movie. Wanted
Back
to
to the
get
movie.
final thoughts on Captain Marvel. Like, what did you guys think in the grand scheme of it all?
In the grand scheme of it all,
I
like
still
I said,
like
it
Did
had
you
the
like the
one.
movie? Do you feel like it tied in? Was it enough? I feel like, I mean, the first thing I would think of is I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp, in terms of connecting to Endgame, is kind of what I look at it as. Is I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, obviously because of the whole quantum realm thing, which is the critical piece for Endgame. I thought it tied together. This is more of a explaining. Captain Marvel is the Superman-esque, super powerful character in this, and I mean, I don't know other than her, the character itself. I don't know what it really brings to Endgame. That's any type of momentous thing.
Yeah. It
It's the
introduced a
character.
character that happened to
Yeah, it's
be
just a
have a
character.
part in Endgame.
Yeah.
That's all I can
Yeah.
say
But she
about
was
this
an important
movie
part of
is that
Endgame,
was what it did.
even
is
though she doesn't
introduced her as
appear
a
in
character.
Endgame that much. But, again, because she would have obliterated anyone who was put against her. So instead, they had her go off world for most of that movie.
Yeah, and that's just like that's lazy writing. Just have her come in and just boom, fix it. I mean, if she had
Yeah,
showed
movie's
up,
over in 10 minutes.
well, if she showed up at the during Infinity War and he didn't have all the stones left, it's all the stones yet, it would
Yeah,
have been
movie would
it
be
would have been a
over.
much different. Yeah, it would have been. But I think everybody still would have been like, yeah, Thanos. Yeah,
It would have been fun watching her kick Thanos' ass, but
yeah.
still, I like
She
what
would
we
have gone
got.
for the head.
So back to the question then. Let's start with Darin.
Yeah.
Like overall, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, Captain Marvel. What do you think overall?
Overall, it didn't really hold my attention. Like I said, I was kind of pining for the action scenes.
So
And like
you
I said,
wanted
I
Captain Marvel
didn't
directed
see
by
this
Michael
in
Bay.
order. I saw this.
Yeah,
I saw this
exactly.
after, like years after Endgame. So
Uh,
I had already seen
Okay.
her do her thing in Endgame, and then I was like, "Oh, what's that character?" And then I'm like, "Oh, there's a Captain Marvel movie." So I looked it up. So I kind of switched those around as far as exposing to those characters or to the character.
You
But
exposed yourself to those
as I
characters?
exposed myself to the character. And like I said, this
Don't
movie
do
did
that.
one thing and one thing well was to introduce this character in order for the audience not to go WTF in Endgame. That's all. That's really all it did. Has she been a a linchpin character in the Marvel universe since then? No, no. This is kind of a one and done movie. I don't think they're gonna revisit that well anytime soon.
Well, they did the Marvels.
And that didn't work out so well
And
for
if you
them.
haven't
So
seen it, I actually was surprised. I mean, going into it, I thought the Marvels was going to be a good movie, but I didn't know how good. But I ended up really liking the Marvels.
wow,
I
thought
like
it
the
was
Marvels.
excellent.
Yeah, not to get
That's a
too deep
different
into that.
podcast. We'll get to that one.
Yeah, no, well,
Yeah.
I thought the
Well, we're
Marvels
not
was
doing
actually
that
much
yet.
better
but-
than I thought
Yeah,
it was going to
yeah.
be. But
Yeah.
anyway, Heather,
Okay.
what'd you
Yeah.
think
I
of
haven't
Captain
seen-
Marvel?
So, like I said at the top, like my only thing was I felt a little left out because I didn't have the comic book background going into it. That there was things I felt like I had to catch up on, but I love the story. I love the action that was going on. I love the powerful woman hero stuff. Like all that was really cool. I like the banter and the humor, the level of humor. So yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I just wish I had known
Little
a
more
little more of the
lore.
context.
Yeah,
A
the
little more
lore.
lore, a little more
Yeah.
context. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought. I mean, like I said on the rewatch. This is literally the only second time I watched it. And I watched it last night. Is I was like, wow, I like it. And like I said, it's hard not to watch these movies. I know we're trying to come at it from the time that it came out, and we don't have pretending sort of that there's nothing after it. But it's hard to not see it with even subconsciously. Having all the other things that have come out, TV shows and movies and everything else to provide that perspective, which I think we're on all these rewatches makes everything make a little more sense, and you're like, oh, okay, like that's cool, like wow, this is much better than I thought it was. And I think it's because but I think it's because of the again, all the other stuff that we've had that's all seeping in. But no, I thought Captain Marvel was a pretty good movie. I really liked the Nick Fury backstory. I mean, Captain Marvel, it's like she got her powers,
Yeah.
she's super powerful, she's the most powerful, whatever in the MCU character. But I liked all the other little things. I really did like the Nick Fury, and I like how it ends. Like this one ends with the way I felt about it was in Iron Man when we got the post credit scene, the very first Iron Man movie, and he's like, "I want to talk to you about the Avengers initiative," and then this one ends with him changing it from the Protector, and you don't even see him type it, but he sees it on the side of her plane, and he,
Yeah.
he's typing in Avenger Initiative, and that's so it kind of brings it. I don't want to say full circle, but it ties it in it ties it in pretty well. I also thought it was interesting he didn't pick an eyeball, but whatever. He stayed with the eye patch. But you figured Stark could have come up with like the mechanical eye like Thor got, and
Yeah.
and if I mean, seriously. But no, I thought Captain Marvel. I thought it was it was a good movie. It was I liked it a little more than I did the first time I saw it.
Yeah, and that's the same with me. Like I've said many times, when I'm doing my rewatch and I watch every single movie, and there's certain movies that I definitely look forward to, and other movies, it's not that I dread them or anything, but it's just like this is the next movie in sequence, so I watch it and I enjoy it. And this is a movie that I don't know why I don't generally look forward to it the way I look forward to Endgame, but I should because every time I watch it, I like it more than the last time. I really like this movie a lot.
Sneaking up
I
on you,
find
huh?
it a lot of fun. Yeah, it's like it's a lot of fun. It isn't as like it doesn't hold a candle to Captain America like the Winter Soldier, which I think is off the charts good. But this movie is still one that it's like it's a really good time. I enjoy it very much. So it's getting to the point where I am going to start looking forward to it every time I do my rewatch.
There you go.
And that said, next week we are talking about the really big one, Avengers Endgame. So I'm looking forward to that because there's a lot to say about that. I want to thank Darin, Heather, Bob, and all of the subscribers and all of the viewers. Thank you for watching and tune in next week. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. And as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.